Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers presented by Mortgage CS. Check out mortgagecs.com/PHLY to start your home buying process today. Company NMLS ID number 1464766. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for this F Around Friday. Joining me today, not only do we have Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter, Charlie O'Connor, we also have Broad Street Hockey's own Kelly Hinkle. Hanks, how are you today?
Very excited to F around.
I'm looking forward to it.
Love to F around.
Before we get into it's kind of just a mess of topics today, and I figured, it's Friday, it's the three of us. We'll just talk about whatever we feel like talking about at a certain point. The outline's just kind of here, so
It's
I feel
supposed
like
to be a beautiful
so
weather
I feel
weekend.
like I did something.
So this is just like we're just easing you into what will be a great weekend. Sunny, warm but not
hot.
insanely hot. It's going to be a good weekend, I think.
Before we get into some of the dumb stuff, we spent a lot of yesterday's show talking Travis Konecny, the debate whether or not to re-sign him. But you were not here on your typical day, and you are now joining us today. So we're going to go back in time, pretend it's Thursday. What do you think of the Konecny debate right now? Where do you stand on Travis Konecny?
So I liked yesterday's show because I thought it was neat that Charlie was able to take kind of the team perspective. Because I think all three of us kind of agree. We kind of all think that Konecny's going to get re-signed. We all kind of think that maybe that's not the best idea. We all kind of think maybe he's going to get too much money. So it was nice to see Charlie kind of do devil's advocate so you two could have an actual conversation about Konecny. Yeah, I'm still kind of in the same place. I think they're going to do it. I don't think it's the best idea, but it's not going to be terrible. And it's probably going to be for more money than any of us want right now.
So here's my question for you, Kelly, because I would say, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I would say that out of the three of us, you tend to be the most optimistic about the team's chances of not being a dumpster fire all the time.
Yeah.
Coming from that perspective, coming from the perspective of someone who is generally more open to the idea that hey, the Flyers might be good this year, or they might be good next year, or this rebuild might not take 5 years before they are good. Does that optimism make you more open to the idea that well, if this team is going to be better than most people think, maybe you can't afford to lose a Konecny?
Yeah, I think it's probably going to lead to me not being. I think the burn it all down crew is going to be very upset when this signing inevitably happens.
It goes against everything they believe that the team needs, so it makes perfect sense that they will hate it. Yeah,
I don't. I'm not going to be super pissed off when they re-sign him. Mostly because I am very hopeful that this team will be competitive more quickly than the more negative side of the fan base thinks that they will be. So, hopefully if they do re-sign Konecny for 8 years, hopefully we have a team that can really use him in the next 3 or 4 rather than the next 6 or 7, because then that makes it a problem, I think. So it's all about, as usual, it's all about all of the other things that Danny Briere does. None of this can be evaluated in a vacuum, which makes it difficult because you don't know what he's going to do. So
it's fair.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get to this when we talk about the playoffs in a minute, but I think it fits in well with this part of the conversation. Let's say TK and Coots are here for the foreseeable future. We all believe that they're going to get this TK deal done sooner rather than later. And Couturier, if they can trade him, cool, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. The best thing that can happen in the Couturier situation is he's just kind of good for that.
Yeah, perhaps the door is a little bit more open now to the possibility of Couturier at some point, whether it's now or a year down the road, being willing to waive his no-move clause. But that's just part one to being able to trade Sean Couturier, because first he has to be willing to do it. Then you have to actually find someone willing to take him, which is another question entirely.
And how long do you want to be paying some sort of retention? Because I don't know of anyone taking him at this price unless he's close to worth it.
Unless you're taking back a bad contract.
And at that point, if he's close to worth it, just keep him. That's the... Right. So I'm looking at these two guys, and obviously, Konecny's in his prime right now. So it's not, oh, well, he's already,
Exactly.
we're signing a guy who's already passed. Like, no,
Yeah.
he's very good right now. But I'm looking at the Dallas Stars and what they have, and they have so much good young talent. They have these guys, Seguin and Ben, who have been there for fucking ever. And it kind of looked a couple of years ago like, these are albatrosses.
Oh,
like,
yeah, for
they
sure.
don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if they like not quite Suter Parisi, but like, yo, it's kind of trending in that direction for this team. And now with the good young talent around them, they are really good role players for this team. Like, yes, Seguin plays with Hintz and Robertson a lot. Also, he's like 7th among their forwards in ice time. Like, Jamie Ben's on what's kind of their third line. Like, they're really good, useful players, even though they're not what they were. Like, Jamie Ben won an Art Ross. Yeah. Granted, it was like with 87 points or something.
The worst Art Ross season ever.
They shouldn't have handed it out that year, but it happened. And now it's just like he's a good veteran who's still decent for them. Is that the best case scenario for the long-term futures of TK and Coots in Philadelphia, Seguin and Ben?
I think it's the best case scenario for Coots. I think TK is a little bit different because he is, as you mentioned, he is still in his prime. The hope, if they re-sign Konecny, they're clearly hoping that in the first half of that deal, the Flyers are going to be competitive. Maybe not one of the top 3 or 4 cup contenders, but they will be competitive. They will be making the playoffs. They will be a team that at least has a shot at winning it all. Whereas Seguin and Ben, I mean, they are doing this very much in the past their prime. Like, they're on a really good Stars team, and they are middle of the lineup guys now. I mean, you want to hear something really funny?
I do.
About this situation?
Yes.
Do you know it was 6 years ago when the Dallas owner called Seguin and Ben fucking horseshit?
Yeah.
6?
That was 6 years. It was in 2018.
I don't like that at
long ago.
all.
Wild.
That feels like maximum 3 years ago.
I know. It doesn't feel that long ago, but for whatever reason, I've this is very much an F around Friday conversation I have, but for whatever reason, the pandemic, those years have completely screwed up my sense of time. Because while those 2 years seemed incredibly long in the moment, now they also have me thinking that like something that happened in 2019 wasn't actually that long ago.
Yes.
And it was, like almost 5 years. Like, no, that's 2018 to 2023 was both 1 and 5 and 10 years.
Yes, absolutely.
Or
that
all
is
3,
a really
not
good
both.
way to put
But
it.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It is it was like, it all kind of just happened at once. And it was 20 years ago, but also it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, it's the weirdest, like, time's a flat circle situation.
100%.
My understanding, like, the 2017 draft, like, talking about the Stars, and, like, obviously it's the source of all of our frustration. Like, we talked a couple of weeks ago, like, there's an alternate universe in which the Flyers are the Dallas Stars. And but
it was funny in our Discord yesterday. I forget which person in our Discord brought this up, but someone asked the honest question. And I don't think it was meant as a dig. It was an honest question because we were talking about, what was Chuck Fletcher's overarching plan? And I basically said, I think Chuck Fletcher's overarching plan in all seriousness was he was trusting Alain Vigneault. And then when Alain Vigneault flopped, that's when the whole thing fell apart because, like, that's why you go out and you trade away Jake Voracek and Shane Gostisbehere because they can't work with AV. He chose AV over everybody, and then AV burned him because AV wasn't able to coach a team well, especially after the pandemic. But then someone responded with, well, what was Hextall's plan? And my answer was, like, what was his overarching plan? And my answer was basically, it pretty much was what Dallas's plan was, except Dallas's plan worked because Dallas drafted well and Hextall either didn't draft well or didn't have the player development.
Whatever
but
it
like,
was.
like right now, like Seguin and Ben are what Hextall probably envisioned Giroux and Voracek becoming.
Absolutely.
With the next generation pushing them down the lineup in a way where they're still good. Like, both those players are still good players.
Yeah.
They're not great players anymore, but they don't have to be because now there's Jason Robertson and Roope Hintz and Miro Heiskanen and even Wyatt Johnson and Logan Stankoven. Like, those guys have allowed Seguin and Ben to age gracefully. That was Hextall's plan. It didn't work because he didn't draft well enough, but had he drafted well, it could have theoretically worked.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think because we've seen it so many times, our instinct is to think that an 8-year contract is going to 100% be an albatross in the back half. Like we just think like, okay, yeah, it's gonna suck at the end. It doesn't have to.
And even, but by the same token, and I agree, like it doesn't have to be awful.
Yeah.
But by the same token, like Sagan and Ben right now, like they are not providing surplus value.
No.
Like those guys would not get $8 million if they hit the open market right now. That's not to say they're bad. They both of them probably would get $5 million per year, but they are on, objectively speaking, right now, if you're looking at just this year, they are on bad contracts. The thing is that Dallas has so many guys on good contracts, it doesn't matter.
They have young guys on ELCs. They have dudes on nice, like, good contracts. So, like, it makes up for it.
Right. It doesn't need to, like, ruin the team.
Exactly.
And that's what I was asking yesterday, like, with the Travis Konecny thing. Like, all right, say he's worth the money right now. Like, this isn't itself a bad contract. But where are the good ones that save us the money that allow us to go do the thing? Because that's the one thing Danny hasn't shown us yet.
Yeah.
Like, I've liked the trades he's made. I like the plan. He's drafted well, so it seems. You know, we don't know, but it looks like it for right now. The thing we haven't seen is when do you win that negotiate? Like,
yeah, that's true.
That's all. I just want to know when we get the team-friendly deal. And maybe TK ends up taking less than we think. Like, maybe this ends up being 8.25 rather than 9. And we're like, oh, shit. Like, I live with, you know, I still don't know if I just want to give him an 8-year contract, but I can live with it.
Yeah, one thing I really don't think is a possibility, just based on where this seems to be going. Would I be more excited about re-signing Travis Konecny if I thought you could get him on a 5-year deal? I would.
Yeah.
I do not think he is accepting that. Like, I just don't think that's in the cards.
No.
I think if you wanted to get him on a 5-year deal, you probably have to give him $10 million.
And he'd be, if he's going to take, like, if he's going to take 5, just hit the open market and get 7.
Yeah.
Like 6, whatever, you know? Like, just go, all right, well, if I'm not going to get the 8, which is the bonus for re-signing before you hit the open market.
Yeah.
Like, just go hit the open market.
Yeah. I just think there's an element, too, with these players where if the team pushes heavily on the idea of it needs to be shorter than 8, the player then starts to think, do you even like me? Like, do you even want me? If you think so low, if you think so low of me that you don't think I'm going to age well, then like maybe I am not actually wanted and I want to go elsewhere. And the Flyers clearly want to keep Konecny, or at least it seems they do.
And like 8 years is so funny because like I think the maximum in the NBA is like 5.
I don't know the NBA rules well enough, but that
like,
sounds right.
I think it's like 4 and 5 rather than 7 and 8.
Okay.
And the NFL, like, yeah, we'll sign you to a 20-year contract. Like, we cut you tomorrow.
Right? Yeah.
Like, 8 years doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And then, like, baseball's the only one that does longer deals, and it's because there's no cap. And it's like, well, we're giving you $1 trillion, so we want to spread it out over the lifetime of the earth.
Yeah, baseball very much like the teams in baseball operate under the assumption that like the world is going to end in 30 years. Like they very much do.
I'm never gonna have to pay this bill. I'm gonna be dead. It's kind of like when I signed my mortgage. It was like, good luck getting this from me. I wish I could go to a mortgage CS
That would have
now.
been so good.
But we don't have them today. No, but like just to get back to your idea of what was the plan. Like there was just an article the other day I saw that was about Dallas and how they like considered after 2016-17, like they end up drafting Heiskanen, they're high in the draft, bad year. They considered like tearing it down. Like we're starting over completely.
I read that article. It was a good article.
And then it was, and this isn't maybe as big a deal in Philly, but somewhat, like there are just financial restrictions. We cannot be bad for 4 years.
Yeah.
Like the team will fold. Like I don't think that would happen here, but it goes to show you that you don't maybe have to. Now, yeah, a majority of cup winners do have several guys, or at least one guy taken at the top of the draft. 1, 2, 3, somewhere in there. Yeah. But
well, and
Heiskanen did go at 3.
Well, and obviously the Flyers are hoping that Mitchkov, even though he's a 7th overall pick,
he could have gone 2 or 3,
and there's your top guy. There's your Heiskanen.
Yes. So, but like it does show you can do it other ways. Again, it's a tougher needle to thread. You have to make big hits like Jason Robertson. You need to find that. But it's doable. Mm-hmm. It is doable. As much as we've been on, like, listen, I wouldn't do it this way, but it's the way it's happening. Mm-hmm. So I can't just argue against myself when it's, you know what they're not going to do? Tear it down. Because they would have by now.
And because they've told us they're not going to.
Yeah, they legitimately, like Keith Jones and Danny Briere have both looked at us and said, we're not doing it that way. We don't believe in it. Yeah. Like,
Like, so that they're not going to do it. So either you can rail, you could scream at a wall.
Yeah, just be mad
and just be
forever.
mad. Or you can just be like, all right, well, if they're not going to do it that way, I really hope this way works. And let's evaluate them on what they're trying to do rather than what you think they should be doing.
And
in terms of overarching plan.
If your options are be mad forever or chill.
You should chill.
Why don't you just choose chill?
Yeah, man.
Why don't you just choose chill? And when you choose chill, when you choose to rise above it all, man, you should reward yourself. Life is stressful. You should reward yourself for choosing the path of chill with an ice cold Coors Light. Listen, man, this team, they drive us nuts. We've been doing this a long time, the three of us. And we're not getting any less crazy about it. I'll tell you that. No. Like, it just seems to be getting more and more insane.
I thought you were going to say we're not getting any younger.
No.
It's like, you don't need to do that to me on a Friday, Bill.
I am.
Same.
That's why sometimes we all need to chill, and there's no better way to chill than with an ice-cold Coors Light. So whether you're freaking out about the rebuild, about the draft, about a long-term contract, you need to find the Blue Mountains in your fridge and enjoy a beer as cold as the Rockies. Because when everything surrounding your favorite hockey team is on fire, sometimes you just got to take a step back and chill. When you choose to chill, make the most of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY hockey. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. I see we have a
we do have a super chat. The
here.
question is, it's about Utah. Do we want to wait until we get to Utah?
Yeah, we'll save it because we have the Utah stuff. So we'll get to that in a second.
Let's do our mailbag question.
Let's get to the mailbag pick of the day. And I actually saw DNVR did a thing today where they had like their pie in the sky wish list and then like realistic and then like maybe we'll do that on like a random Tuesday or something where we actually put thought into it.
Right.
But thanks for the question, Flyers fan 39, and at least got my thought, my head jogging. He says, if you could pick one thing for Danny Briere to absolutely nail this offseason, what is it? For example, landing a top center, maximizing draft position, offloading questionable contracts. What would you like to see Danny Briere? If he nails one thing, what would you like to see it be?
This was tough because all three of those, I think, are extremely important, obviously, to the future of the team. If I had to pick one of them, I think it's offloading questionable contracts.
Really?
Because I think that if he's able to do that, that really sets them up for the future moving forward to have a lot more flexibility, to have the ability to maybe sign somebody in free agency in the next couple of summers. Also, getting rid of players that aren't good, also always a good thing. I just think that one has the opportunity to have like the greatest overall impact on the way that the team can be shaped going forward.
So when you say offloading bad contracts, like the one that jumps to mind immediately for me is Rasmus Ristolainen.
Yeah.
So that, because like, yeah, you could say that it would be cool if they didn't have the last year of Cam Atkinson's contract, but it's just one more year.
Yeah,
it's not really killing them. It wouldn't kill them if Cam Atkinson spends the final year of his NHL career on that contract with Philadelphia as the team's regular healthy scratch. It wouldn't be great.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing like Risto is the one that you really have in mind.
I'm thinking more the long-term one. So like Risto is the obvious one. Obviously, if they were able to get rid of Couturier, which I know that they can't. But I mean, like, if by some magic he was able to, that would be awesome for the team. I do think that, like, I know you guys talked about Sealer yesterday. I still hate that contract. It's too long. I mean, like, I know he's fine and it's not that big of a deal. I just wish it were 2 years shorter. But
I think it's about a year too long.
Yeah.
But you had to give it to him, I guess, because that's how he's going to sign.
I get it. But I just think that, like, giving yourself a little bit more flexibility, like you have an article about their cap situation, like looking worse on paper than it actually is, which is fair. But I just think giving themselves a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of space, getting rid of players that aren't particularly great, that you have locked up for way too long, like none of it's bad.
I do agree with you that if like what would get people the most, maybe not even people, what would get the online contingent of Flyers fans the most excited about the offseason? It very well might be if Danny Briere found a way to both move Rasmus Ristolainen and Sean Couturier without taking back a lot of money.
Right, yeah.
Like, that would get people jacked.
Which would be magic.
It would be magic. I don't think it's possible, but
Yeah,
you're right. That would get people online, especially the most excited. I think Risto could be traded. I think it would be tough because
it's trickier now
because the injuries and whatnot. But I think there are teams that would be interested in him. Couturier is the one where, and I still really like Sean Couturier, the player. I would like them to find a way to make it work where he comes back next year and is the guy from the first half, and he smooths everything out with Torts and is the captain through the rest of the decade. That'd be great. But I cannot deny that contract is scary as hell.
Yeah.
And if you can find a way out of it in some way, especially if it doesn't come with like taking back another guy who's making $9 million a year,
right,
that would be a very good thing for the Flyers' long-term rebuild plan.
Mm-hmm.
However, if I'm answering this question, I think my answer would be getting a top center or getting a guy who I think could be a top, like a 1C, because it's just such a glaring hole in their organization.
That's true.
And also, there's the fact, and we talked about this on shows, where I'm of the opinion that like I don't think they need to race to get Mitchkov a center, but I think at some point they need to get him a center.
Yeah.
And if there's if there's a chance that he's going to be here in October, it would be real cool if his center was not Morgan Frost or whatever is left of Sean Couturier. It would be real cool if that was Trevor Zegras
or
Ryan Paley
or
Ryan Paley. Like, to me, if the Flyers were to end this offseason and I'm not even saying like necessarily in a trade, if they draft Berkeley Catton, I will be freaking jacked. And I'd be like, okay, this makes me feel a lot better. I don't know if he can be the first line center. I don't know if he can be a center at the NHL level, but you know what? It gives them a guy who could be. It gives them a path to having that 1C that I think they need. If they trade for Zegras, same thing. Is it possible that he's never a true 1C, that he's always kind of in that like offensive 2C, like a better version of Morgan Frost type of guy? Yeah, it's possible. But suddenly I can envision a path where they have that 90-point-a-year first-line center. That, I think, to me, would be, if I could choose one thing that Danny pulls off this summer, it's give me a path to getting that first-line center by having someone in the organization that I can look at and say, that might be the guy. Right now, they don't have anyone in the organization, unless you are like the biggest Morgan Frost fan in existence that possibly has that upside.
And
Ryan Paley, baby.
Yeah. To that point, like, I don't know if it's a top center. I don't know if it's a defenseman. I just know they need dudes. Like, they also need really good depth players because they don't have a ton of, like, by depth, I mean, like, second line guys, not just, like, second pair guys. Maximizing of the players, of the options that Flyers Fan 39 gave us, I would say maximizing draft position because I want to take advantage of what they have right now. What they have right now is a veteran like a Scott Lawton who teams might value above his production because of some intangible stuff that, honestly, I know these intangibles and the locker room culture, all this stuff is important. I just don't, like, how many times over the last, in his tenure have we been like, yeah, locker room's no good, team quit. Like, I don't know. I would like to move on for a number of reasons. One of them is change for the sake of change. I do want that. But it's because, like, you know what? Owen Tippett's never going to become a leader if there's dudes ahead of him that he always defers to. Like, and Owen Tippett's just the example, but it could be anybody. And I do want to clear out where we can. You can't get rid of Sanheim. You can't get rid of Couturier. Scott Lawton, Rasmus Ristolainen, these are dudes you can move on from in some fashion that will open up not just roster spots, but roles in the locker room for younger guys who need that responsibility if this team is going to be good, great 5 years from now. You know, that's got to be the goal. So I maximize draft position and change for the sake of change are my two answers to this question here.
I like it.
So
And
we do have a super chat.
Okay.
And this piggybacks off the TK
Related.
conversation. So I think this is one that's good to do now. From Gary B. I am having trouble understanding why people are hung up on potential TK finances. Say Danny gives him 8 years. In theory, he shouldn't have to be the best player anymore on the team at that point. That's true. Like, I don't think by signing TK to an 8-year, $9 million a year contract, they are assuming he is going to be the best player on the team through those years. And we've talked about it on the show, especially Kelly, that we would love it if we lived in an NHL where people didn't have to worry about the cap hits and about how much money players were making. We would love it if, like, Comcast could just spend as much money as they wanted to, just like they could before we had a salary cap. Unfortunately, there is a salary cap. And that's why people are so concerned about how much you pay Konecny, because if they give Konecny that money, that is money that can't go to improving the roster in other places, which is why people are as concerned as they are, because an 8-year commitment to a 28-year-old who isn't a star and giving him close to $10 million a year, that's a big commitment. So I get why people are concerned about it.
That's I don't expect him to be, and hopefully he won't be the best player. But then why are we giving this guy $80 million? You know, it's 75, whatever it is. Like,
less than
I'm just saying, then why are then we have to sign this guy? Because for what reason? I get it. I know he's good. And I may have overstated yesterday my disbelief in his ability. Like, he's a very, very good player. It's just he's not a star. And that's star money. I know we have to recalibrate what we think money is.
I was going to say, is it though? It's kind of not anymore.
But all right, Darnell Nurse makes $925, and it is a fucking problem for the Edmonton Oilers, and they have the best player in the world.
Yeah, but he actively sucks.
I mean, he doesn't. He's been bad in the playoffs.
He kind of stinks.
He's a perfectly fine 2-3. I think.
And if you're, but that's what we hoped. That's what we hope Travis Konecny is. Oh, he's a really good second line player. I don't want to give first line money to that when I think we have other dudes who can do what he does. Like Owen Tippett's production, not that much different from Travis Konecny's.
I disagree with you there. I mean, in terms of raw points, yes, but in terms of point per game and in terms of per game production, you would expect Konecny is significantly higher.
Give him the ice time and put him on the penalty kill and tell me he doesn't have the same numbers.
The penalty kill is an interesting idea. They've considered putting him on the PK. I don't think he has the same aggressive instincts as TK, but I guess you don't know until you try it.
I also kind of think Konecny could be a fine third piece on a Mitchkov, good center
I think
line.
so too. I think we had this debate yesterday. I think Konecny is a first line caliber player. Now, again, if you want to make the argument that on a cup contender, you have first liners on your second line, sure. But I think Travis Konecny is absolutely a first liner. You're a little bit more skeptical.
I think you can absolutely play him with first liners and you will get the most out of him. He will not look out of place. He's really good. But that's what I was saying about the Tyler Seguin comparison. He plays with Hintz and Robertson. But when you look at the ice time at the end of the day, he's 7th among their forwards in these playoffs.
Right.
That's what I want him to be. Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's a first liner, but we have guys who are far better than him.
Yeah, I still think you're selling him short. But we don't need to rehash the Konecny debate. We had it yesterday. We do have one more, which appears as just one name said over and over again by UK Birds Fan 01. Brady Tkachuk, Brady Tkachuk, Brady Tkachuk. LOL.
I mean, obviously, if that were available to us, we would gladly take one Brady Tkachuk onto our hockey team, but I just don't know why people think that's a thing that's going to happen.
Outside of the idea that Matt didn't want to play in Canada, he wanted to play in the U.S., and so he got traded to a team that had just won the President's Trophy, mind you.
Yeah.
And where he doesn't have to pay state income tax on his home games.
Oh, God.
It's a thing.
I know.
Playing in Canada versus playing in Florida is a completely different financial situation.
Well, there's also the weather too.
Yeah. Also, no, but that's another thing that place has going for it. Sunrise, very nice place to live. Calgary, I've never been there, but doesn't seem nice. Bret Hart's a pretty miserable prick.
I have been there. It was like maybe my least favorite city I've been to. And I haven't been to Winnipeg, but Calgary.
Get to Calgary.
Calgary is my least favorite city I've been to.
I'm starting a GoFundMe to send myself to Calgary. I need to know why people hate it so much.
It seems like cold Texas.
It just seems fun.
That's exactly what it was like.
It's like that's what it seems like to me.
It was cold Texas.
But like, unless he's just like, I want to get the fuck out of here. Get me out of here. I do not understand why a team in their position would trade their captain and best player. Like, that seems insane to me.
And he's on a contract for 4 more years.
Yeah, like, it's not like he's there. Like, that was the other thing with Tkachuk. He was like, I'm not staying.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, like, Ottawa can tell Brady, yeah, you are.
Right, exactly. I don't...
So I just... I want him. It would be great.
Look, it seems like because Ottawa is Ottawa... Everyone, I guess, like not named Tim Stützle, has been in theorized trade conversations by the public because I think everybody just looks at Ottawa and is like, well, they're kind of a mess. They might trade anybody. I don't know.
That's fair.
I don't know, but I my guess is that's where it's coming from. Not that like people actually think that Brady Tkachuk is a lock to be traded.
I would kill for Brady Tkachuk, but like I just don't see it happening.
Seems unlikely.
All right. Well, we were just talking about finances, and maybe you want to think about your finances a little. Maybe you should think about going with a credit union like Trumark Financial, because when you join a credit union like Trumark, you become part owner, which means profits come back to you instead of going to shareholders. You can get better rates, lower fees, a better return on savings, and more flexible options with all the same digital tools and tech that we've come to expect from our banking partner. And Trumark, man, maybe the number one reason you want to go with them, they have local roots. They're headquartered in Fort Washington with 24 branches in the Philly area. They serve our community and our people right here at home. Becoming a member of a credit union has so many benefits over being a customer at a bank. It's kind of just a total no-brainer. So head over to trumark.com/PHLY to learn more or to find a branch near you. That's TRUMARK.com/PHLY. Federally insured by the NCUA. All right, so that takes us to, I wanted to get into a little bit of playoff stuff, but we kind of already touched on it. Well, since, like, I want to ask, of the 4 teams left, which can the Flyers look at as the model? And, I mean, it's Dallas. It's Dallas.
Yeah.
Maybe a little Florida.
Yeah.
Because they did it in a different way, kind of.
The thing with Florida is...
And they had plenty of fuck-ups along the way.
Yeah, the thing with Florida is that they did it in an interesting way because Zito was so aggressive.
Yeah.
Like they unearthed a lot of guys that like they unearthed like Carter Verhaeghe, Gustav Forsling. Like they found guys, and that, I mean, it's real hard, but in theory, any team could do that.
Yeah, where the F did Forsling come from? He's been like insane.
He was a waiver claim. He was on Chicago, then he ended up with Carolina, and then Carolina waived him, and then Florida claimed him and then turned him into the stud.
Just wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just an amazing find. But my guess is that Florida's somewhat difficult to replicate. You, number one, have to be finding insane diamonds in the rough. You have to be really good at trading. Like, Bill Zito's a real good GM. It's not that he doesn't make some mistakes. Like, I bet in retrospect, knowing that they were going to lose in the second round that year, he probably would not have traded what he did for Claude Giroux. But you know what? Fuck it. He was going
in that position. You go.
He was going for it, and Giroux was good for them. It's just that
he was a point of game player for them.
And maybe Owen Tippett never would have become this version of Owen Tippett. He stayed on Florida because he never would have got his shot because he was so far down the organizational depth chart that he would still be plugging away in the AHL right now, and we'd view him as a first round bust. So Zito's a good GM. Not sure if that's a plausible path to replicate. No. Plus, I just don't get the sense that Danny GMs the way that Bill Zito does. Like, Bill Zito does a ton of stuff. I don't get the sense Danny is quite that aggressive. Obviously, you're not going to replicate Edmonton because they don't have Connor McDavid.
Get Connor McDavid, yeah.
And I don't think you can replicate the Rangers because the Rangers are basically like, we have one of the best goalies in hockey, and we get outplayed a lot, but it doesn't matter because we have one of the best goalies in hockey.
And our best forward and our best defenseman both forced their way here.
Yeah.
Like,
good point.
Like, we were rebuilding, and then we got these guys, and we're like, well, fuck. We're good now, you know? But no, like, and Florida amazes me because of their fuck-ups along the way. Like,
they made some mistakes.
The Vegas expansion draft is like, they're the laughing stock of that thing.
Yeah.
And then like they played against those guys last year in the Stanley Cup final. Like you made a team good enough to get to the final against them after you gave them those two guys for free.
Yeah.
Absolutely freaking insane that they're able to recover from that. Like if the Flyers did that, it'd be like, well, all right, we're rebuilding again. We messed up. But like Aaron Ekblad was like a decade ago. Like he is not young.
No.
That was a long, long time ago. And like now they're this.
Yeah, that
good.
was the 2014 draft.
Yeah, that was 14.
Yeah.
So 10 drafts ago. That was so freaking long ago. But yeah, I think it's Dallas simply because one, there's an alternate universe in which the Flyers are the Stars.
Right.
And it's like the most replicable path.
Yes.
Like it's just something you can actually, okay, this is how they did it. It's possible.
Draft well, overcome the fact that you have some contracts that aren't great because you have so many contracts that are. That's a replicable path. You just have to draft really
well.
Yeah. Easier said than done, but it can be done.
We thought we did it a few times. Yeah. It just didn't. That's when you have this many misses, like you know how the draft's a crapshoot. You can't get it wrong this many times either.
Yeah.
Like it has to be a development issue, right?
I think that all of the Hextall mistakes, I'm sure a solid half of them were development issues. Because like you said, like you can't miss on all of them.
Yeah. When we were actually, Bill and I were talking about this before the show, before you got here, Kelly, that I still hold to the belief that while I don't think there is any universe where Ivan Provorov is a number one defenseman. I think in retrospect, he never had that upside. Yeah. And we probably got a little too high on him when he was drafted and in the couple of years after. That said, I absolutely think there are multiple universes where he is a much better player if he goes to a team that doesn't throw him into the number one 25 minutes a night role and instead lets him earn it.
Yeah.
And that would have allowed him to, number one, probably fill out the rest of his game rather than being thrown right in the deep end. And number two, it probably creates a world where he doesn't think so highly of himself that he doesn't allow himself to be coached. Yeah. So, like, to me, Provorov is absolutely a developmental failure. That there is probably another universe where he is a great number two defenseman at the NHL level. He's a top pair, no doubt about it, like stud. Not the guy, but the guy right under the guy. Now I just think he is what he is. He's a passable second pair guy, and that's all he's ever going to be because there are flaws in his game that are too ingrained for them to be fixed at this point.
Like a Taves next to McCarr.
Exactly.
That kind of guy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's a new mock draft up on The Athletic, and I actually kind of like this. Draft. It's a little bit different. It's an if I was GM style. So it's not so much a prediction. It's more of what they do. And it's Proman and Wheeler, and they brought in Max Boltman as well to be the third guy.
He covers the Red Wings.
Max actually ends up making both Flyers picks, and I just wanted to throw them out there for anyone. It's at 12, he has the Flyers taking Beckett Seneca, the winger from Oshawa, and at 30, EJ Emery, the U.S. defenseman.
So the way this board falls, like I like Beckett Seneca. I'm a bit concerned that the production wasn't really there. I am always going to be a little bit skeptical of late risers in the draft.
I was going to ask about that.
He had a really good playoff for Oshawa. That's kind of where this all came from. Yeah. But the skill is there. It's just you wonder why wasn't it there all year? Was he just on a hot streak? I'm not sure. But the way this draft falls, where basically it comes down to a decision between, and by this draft, I mean this mock, it comes down to a decision between Seneca and Hellenius. Like, I might go Seneca because even though I would rather go with a center than a winger, and I guess there are some people who think Seneca could be a center. I'm very skeptical of that. But there have been people in this chat that are like, they think he's a center. Sure. I see a winger all day, but whatever. I think Seneca might have higher upside than Hellenius. So I might go Seneca in this mock, but it wouldn't be a pick I would be like super excited about.
Right.
Because I have concerns about Seneca. He is he's on the lower side of my top 14. He's still a good prospect, but in this draft, I might not hate it, even if he wouldn't be a guy I would be like really, really pumped about.
And the way that this board unfolds for them, the guys who we are hoping are at 12, me specifically,
they're gone.
Yakimchuk and Catton go. Yakimchuk goes 4 to Columbus.
Yeah, because Proman loves him.
And Catton goes 5 to Montreal.
And I don't think either of them are going that early. I think it's just those are guys that people,
Is this something I'm going to have to worry about?
those are guys that people like Corey and people like Scott Wheeler really like because they're high skill guys who are bigger swings. I personally expect NHL GMs to go with safer choices in the early stages of the draft. I guess with the exception of Salayev, who very much is not a safe choice, but he's 6'7", fucking huge. Like, yeah, GMs are going to go for that.
So can I ask Charlie a question? I don't want to derail the show, but it's like a drafty question. So as someone who like actually dives into these kids and like watches them and actually knows things, like for me as a casual draft person, I tend to think of like, I don't trust the late risers, as you said. And also I have trouble trusting in the other way, the guys that fall late, like Yzerman, unless there's like a reason, like an injury or, you know, he has mono or like whatever. Like, unless there's like a concrete reason for them to like take these precipitous drops, I'm like, well, wait a minute. All of you experts had player X going really high for years. And now in the last month, you've decided now he's a 25th overall pick. And you've had another guy as a late first rounder, maybe, and now all of a sudden you think he's like a top 15 pick because he had a couple of good games in the playoffs. Like, I wonder if these kind of late moving things, if you think as someone who actually studies this stuff, is my instinct right? Like, you should be looking more at the long-term kind of rankings of these kids rather than these kind of late fluctuations that seem to happen every year.
Yes and no. I think that like scouting is such an inexact science that I don't think it's a hard, fast rule. Like if you're talking about guys that have slipped, like Travis Konecny was a slipper. Yeah. He was a guy who slipped further than anybody expected. We thought he was a possibility theoretically in the, you know, at 7, if you wanted to reach, but probably going in the early teens. He gets into the 20s. The Flyers get a really good player. Cutter Gauthier was a riser. I mean, I don't know what he's ultimately going to become, but it certainly looks like that was a good pick if he actually wanted to sign with your organization. From a talent standpoint, looks like that was a good pick. So
Nico Hischier.
Are there guys who rise up and probably shouldn't have because people get caught up in the hype train? Yeah, probably. But there's also guys that rise up and deserve it. And there's guys that fall that end up being really good. Like, I don't think it's necessarily that like, because Cole Yzerman is falling, that's a red flag that he's not going to be a good NHL player. Yeah. I think it just as easily could be that he's been over-scouted. So it varies from player to player. There are some risers that bust. There are some risers that are stars. There are some fallers that bust. There are some fallers that are stars. So I'm not ready to say there's like a hard, fast, like this doesn't work, this works kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking draft. It's that time of year, man. It's here. Memorial Day weekend is behind us, meaning it's summer. It's beach season, it's barbecue season, it's bonfire season, and Rite Aid is your last-minute stop and the perfect place to stock up for summer. They have pool day supplies like goggles, floats, sunscreen, everything you need with one stop at Rite Aid. You can also stock up on bug spray and bandages. You can pick up a first aid kit while you're there because it's fireworks season. You can get snacks and drinks, all your favorites, picnic supplies, ice cream. Try that thrifty ice cream. You can pick up a container today, available exclusively at Rite Aid. And right now, you can save $10 in Rite Aid bonus cash when you spend $50. Available until tomorrow, so get on out to your Rite Aid. It's available through 6/1, which today's the last day of May, so I might want to head over to my local Rite Aid, valid through 5/26 to 6/1. Purchase must be on eligible products in a single transaction, excluding sales tax, and after all other applicable discounts are applied. Limit 1 per transaction, redeemable only at Rite Aid pharmacy stores. No cash given, not valid if duplicated, not valid on prescriptions and co-pays, alcohol, tobacco products, lottery, money services, gift cards, prepaid cards, newspaper stamps, online purchases, mailing services, licenses, or items excluded by law. Lost, stolen, or damaged or expired coupons will not be honored or replaced. Not responsible for unintended redemption. Rite Aid Rewards account required. Cannot be combined with like offers. But other than that, go to Rite Aid. Stock up on everything for summer.
There we go. So-
Impressive that they managed a disclaimer longer than the mortgage company. I'm
Really?
very impressed. Yeah,
It's
I
truly.
mean, they do sell drugs.
it's true.
So there's
that's
that.
yeah. You got to make distinctions. I
You do.
guess.
Indeed.
It's
And it's
important
better. It's
information.
better to tell the people ahead of time than to
Indeed.
get there and then be yelling at some cashier who's like, "I don't make the goddamn rules. Leave me alone." Because that's what I used to say at Pizza Hut. I'm like, "Do I look like I make the prices?
No.
Really? Look at me." And they'd calm down usually. All right, so we have a second mailbag question of the
Ooh.
day because why not? And it's from. I think I chose it because of the name, Koofy Smackin'.
That's a great,
Wow.
great name.
Wow.
Hey, Bill, I've really been enjoying the draft content lately and had a question for the mailbag. Do you guys have any idea on the potential timeline to seeing some of the likely options like Berkeley Catton or Carter Yakimchuk in the NHL? Understand it's pretty rare to see a guy go straight to the league outside of like top 3-ish picks, but didn't know if you guys think either needs 1 year more of juniors or some AHL time or up to 3 to 4 years before we could see them up with the big team. I responded to this DM and was like, typically guys need at least 1 more year of
Yeah,
junior.
I would agree with that.
And now there's always exceptions. Like I very much doubt Matvei Michkov is going to spend any time in Allentown.
I don't think he
That
comes
would- Dear
over
God.
Yes.
if he's going to spend
Yeah,
any
Can you
time.
exactly.
imagine sending that poor man to Allentown, Pennsylvania as his first taste of the Flyers organization?
Like I very much doubt that is going to happen.
I hope
But
not.
as a general philosophy, it seems as if this front office does believe in AHL seasoning. That's fair. Like we've said
Yeah,
that before, right?
Seems like it.
Yeah.
But with dudes you get in the lottery pick area, I would assume 1 or 2 years.
That's my guess.
Seems likely.
Yeah, you've got Koofy mention Berkeley Catton and Carter Yakimchuk. Obviously, they've been 2 guys who've been linked to the Flyers a lot in these early mock drafts. Catton's small. I could certainly see. Let me put it this way. I would not expect if they take Berkeley Catton that he is jumping straight to the NHL.
At 18, 19 years old.
I think he is at the very least getting 1 more year of juniors. He's in juniors, so he would have to spend 2 years in juniors
You
before he
can't
would
play in the AHL.
before he would jump to the AHL. I don't know. I would probably put him more on like the Konecny path, where Konecny spent 1 more year in juniors, then made the club out of camp.
Yeah.
That would be probably my guess for Catton. For Yakimchuk, he's bigger, he's stronger, to be sure. And I guess I don't think he would make the team out of camp either, but I guess there is an argument to be made that they might want to get him under Bradshaw as quickly as possible since
Okay.
he's raw.
Okay.
I guess I would still assume that he would get 1 more year in juniors, though, at least, if not 2, because he is raw. Even though he's old for his draft year, you watch him play, and there's a lot to clean up. I would wonder, though, if maybe they'd be like, oh, get him up here and let Bradshaw work on him. But given what they've said about their view of Jamie Drysdale
Yeah.
and about how they think he was rushed, I don't think they are going to do the same thing to their top 15 defensemen either.
No.
And like Jamie Drysdale, while he was rushed, like his first full year in the league, he put up 39 points. It's not as if he was out of place.
Yeah.
They just think for his development, it would have been better for him to get some seasoning in the league. So yeah, I think like the forward, if they go that route, it's maybe a TK sort of path. And we've just seen defensemen take longer in this organization every single time. But there is a difference now because they have Torts and Shaw.
The one guy who potentially I have read, the thought is he might get here sooner than most is Hellenius. Like obviously he's already playing pro games in Finland.
Yeah.
He's not huge, but he's built pretty
can
well
handle
already.
himself.
He can handle himself in the pros already in Finland. And because he's coming from overseas, in theory, he could come over immediately and play in the AHL. So maybe
Yeah.
he is a different timeline than the other guys because you have more flexibility with him in terms of he could come over and be an AHLer at age 18 in a way that Berkeley Catton and Carter Yakimchuk can't. That's an interesting one.
All right. Before we get to the Utah stuff, I got to tell you about Butcher Box. What you need to
Ooh.
do right now for me. Open a different tab on your computer, laptop, whatever you're on. Go to butcherbox.com/PHLY. The first thing you're going to see is your free offer. The free offer is you can either choose in every box you get for the next year Free sockeye salmon for a year. Free top sirloins for a year. It's 4 6-ounce, 100% grass-fed and finished sirloin steaks in every box for free, or free chicken thighs for a year. 3 pounds of free-range organic bone-in chicken thighs for a year. You choose one of those, you put in your email, add offer to cart, and then you get to choose all the other items in your box. And it's really something special. I told you what I chose yesterday. There was some New York strips in there. There was Gulf shrimp in there. 3 pounds of wings I put in. I am really excited for the arrival of my Butcher Box. And I think if you follow these simple instructions, you'll really be excited about it too. It's like I just said in the last read, man. It's summer. It's grilling season. You want a freezer full of meat that any day you're like, what am I in the mood for today, man? Am I in the mood to grill up some wings? Don't want to make steaks. Don't want to make burgers. Whatever it is, you can get it delivered straight to your door with free shipping. Just go to butcherbox.com/PHLY. I guarantee you're going to really love this. So ButcherBox is offering our listeners an amazing offer where new users can get the free meat that I mentioned, plus $20 off your first box. So join today using the link butcherbox.com/PHLY and use code PHLY to receive this exclusive offer today before time runs out. It's a limited time offer, friends. Butcherbox.com/PHLY. Get all the meat you desire. All right.
All right, so we have the Utah Super Chat, but we also had a couple other Super Chats.
Okay,
so
let's do. Oh, wow,
we had a lot of Super Chats today. Let's do the non-Utah Super Chats first, then get to the Utah Super Chat, and then transition into the Utah team names.
Okay. So what's the
VNet,
first?
I believe, was the first one. VNet Singh, do York, Arison, and picks to LA get you Byfield?
Oh, that feels unlikely.
I don't think so. They would have to really like Cam York.
They'd have to really like Sam Arison.
And also, getting rid of Arison puts you back where you were last season.
Unless Fedotov is a god.
But then who's backing him up?
No, I mean, I don't think they would put Kolosov in there immediately, but at least they would. Cal Peterson's back.
Welcome back, Cal.
The Cal Peterson revenge story.
Hey, I don't think you could do it simply because you can never have that guy in the locker room again. Like,
poor Cal.
I'm sure they like him as a person.
I just mean like the way he got thrown under the bus. If I was him, I'd be like, I'd rather play in the AHL. Fuck you. I'm not paying any escrow. I'm making more money this way. Like, you know what? I'm good.
I just, to me, this is an offer where I don't think LA is trading Quentin Byfield, and I don't think the Flyers are trading Cam York. I don't think this even gets to the who says no stage. I think this is a neither side even offers it stage. I think the Flyers are just too high on York, and I think LA realizes that Byfield's their future.
All right. So our next super chat is from Idiot Sandwich. No hot takes, just saying thanks for another great week of shows. For the panel, which player would you most like to chill with over a Coors Light? So we had this one. If I could go on a bender with anyone, and I was like, I got to choose someone closer to my age.
Yeah.
It's like, what am I going to hang out with the 24-year-olds? I don't know any TikTok dances.
That's true.
That's a good point.
You know? So it's got to be like Travis Konecny might be the absolute youngest dude I could hang out with.
Yeah.
Me and Eric Johnson.
Yeah, like it would be me and Mark Stahl just chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, if I'm going to chill with a player, I would probably, honestly, probably Couturier. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think Coots was my answer.
I'd chill with Coots.
Me and Coots, we're the same age. Yeah. Like, I can at least hang out with this guy. Like, we've seen the same movies.
Real talk, the answer is Jake Voracek.
Well, well, if you're going to go on a bender with a player,
I want
Jake Voracek's life.
I want to sit at a bar with Jake Voracek for some length of time.
I think about Jake's gout story so much. Like, every time I have a pain in my foot, I'm like, is this it? And then he played.
Incredible.
And it's like, what's your diet? It's like, Pilsner and the nice and Wagyu. Like, okay. Yeah,
that makes sense.
This is how you get it. All right. And is this the Utah one?
No, this is one last one by Linden49. Patrick
sure
Pickard, big time shame. It did. It's hard to even envision what the Flyers would have been had Nolan Patrick not busted the way he did.
Okay, say everything else. Like, Hischier is a captain / potential Selke candidate. The next three guys could very well end up in the Hall of Fame, at least a bunch of all-star games, some awards. You know, two of the best defensemen in the league among that group. And Patrick is a really good 65.2C. Does that hurt more Like the fact that he's just
might.
gone and we can be like, yeah, he's fucking gone. Like
Yeah.
we don't. At least he's like not disappointing us
Yeah, because
actively.
then it's also like, well, how would we know that he had migraine disorder?
Yeah.
Like, what can we do about this? But if he just ended up being a mediocre player and we're watching Cale Makar do that every night,
We've already seen this happen once, and it was the Jays Van Riemsdyk show. And I think like there's a good chance he is the most hated good player the Flyers have had in the last 15 years.
Only
Like there are
'cause he's
players
big
that
and didn't
there are
hit.
worse players that like were hated more. But James Van Riemsdyk is an objectively good hockey player. He is good at hockey.
Yeah.
And so many people despise him because he's not Patrick Kane.
and also big and did not smash.
That guy scored an overtime cup-winning goal against us.
I don't like talking about
like
that.
it
did happen.
happened,
Unfortunately, that did happen.
All right, so let's get to the Utah stuff now.
All right, so what was the super chat from
the
way back in the
Utah
beginning of the show?
super chat from early.
So it's from Keith Shirts. Can the Flyers exploit Utah's potential new owner syndrome? Any roster pieces there that make sense? Love the show.
This is
Keith,
a conversation we had on Twitter
thanks
yesterday.
for watching. Thanks for listening. Yeah, we had a conversation on Twitter last night with one of our, I don't even know if he's a viewer, but definitely somebody who follows us, about the idea of, maybe trying to sell them on the idea of Konecny. Again, this is all in a universe where the Flyers are willing to trade Konecny and aren't aiming to re-sign him. But the argument he made was like, could they use Konecny to trade up and get the 6th overall pick and then have the 6th pick and the 12th pick and then go heavy in terms of the rebuild that way? Like, that would be cool. I don't think they would do it just because those picks almost never get traded. But
Ryan Smith is a new owner in the NHL, and he definitely wants his team to make an impact, but he's not a new owner. Like, he's owned the Utah Jazz.
He's probably not dumb.
He knows probably not to do dumb shit.
Yeah.
And he'll hire smart people, I assume.
yeah.
So,
But
I don't know how would that be dumb. The Florida pick and Konecny for 6 is that dumb?
I don't think
That might be a good.
I don't think
for
for the
them.
Flyers, yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
But for them, I don't know. I guess it just depends on how highly you value the picks. Like, those picks don't get traded. I know, and I know I rail on this every year because, like, and I get it. I get where fans are coming from. They want big things to happen.
Sure.
Top 10 picks don't get traded. It never fucking happens.
in a
So,
year-
like, you can convince yourself of these thought experiments in your head and, like, have fun, guys. But, like, just know on some level that it almost certainly isn't going to happen because top 10 picks never get traded.
Until they do, Charles.
In a year where there's like a clear line, like why is someone going to trade out of the top 10 when, like, after 14 it's we might as well just take this guy with the 2nd round pick.
Right.
Like, we're getting the same player at 20 that we are at freaking 35. So what's the point of this trade?
But to go back to Keith's question, because he was more asking in general terms, I think that Utah does want to make a splash.
Yes.
I don't know if Utah's splash has to be trading with the Flyers. I mean, they're a team where I very much think that if Sam Reinhart hits the market, I think they're going to go for it because they have so much cap space.
Sense,
Like, that makes more sense to me than, like, trying to convince them to trade you Logan Cooley or Clayton Keller. Like, I think they want to add without subtracting big pieces. Like, they might be willing to trade you some of their depth guys. Like, if you still think that, like, Victor Soderstrom can be a good defenseman, like, yeah, maybe you go for him. Or, like, if you still believe that Lawson Krause can be a good player, like, go for him. I don't think they're going to be willing to, like, I don't think this is a situation where, like, you can scavenge them and try to get their big name guys. I think they want to add to their big name guys.
Yeah, that's the thing. Why would they be getting rid of talent
Yeah.
at this point? They're trying to make the team better. And, like, this is something that Arizona could have done forever, and they just didn't.
They just didn't.
Yeah.
So I'm iffy on that, but hey, you know what?
I think they're going to be linked to a lot of guys.
I do.
Sure.
I think Utah is going to try to be very aggressive, and yeah, you want to be on the phone with Armstrong, trying to see if there's an option. But, like, I think they are going to be more super active in free agency, super active in terms of, like, they trade draft picks. I don't know. I don't love the fit, but hey, who knows?
My thought, you know how we talked about if we're going to give Travis Konecny this money, why not just pay a couple million more and get better Travis Konecny, a.k.a. Mitch Marner?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they do that?
Right.
Like,
Wow,
if Mitch
great.
Marner's getting traded.
It's a good
Great point.
Like,
Well,
that's what I
we'll
think
see.
their splash is.
But yeah, they could be a Marner option, to be sure.
All right. Real quick, let's get to some of these Utah team names. So Ryan Smith was on McAfee on Wednesday, said it's down to 4. Now, they're not going to have a name this year. it's going to be the Utah NHL team until next season,
Right.
the 2025-2026. But it's down to 4, and the 2 top contenders, I believe he said, are Yeti and Mammoth.
Yeti and Mammoth.
Do any of these other names stick out to you?
Okay, am I the only person who's incredibly annoyed that neither of those is plural?
I like the
Well,
non-plural
Kraken
names.
is also not plural, so I guess that's where they're going with it.
And Jazz, like he owns the Jazz. That's one of the 4
You
teams
can't really.
in the NBA that
What
aren't
what are
plural.
jazzes? Like,
I'm
there
just
can't be
saying,
2
like,
jazzes.
Is Yeti or is Yeti not the
Yetis.
plural of Yeti?
I think,
Yetis.
yeah, I think Yeti is.
Several Yetis.
There maybe it's because there is theoretically only one Yeti. It is like the mythical monster, the same way the Kraken is. There's just one Kraken.
Okay.
I didn't know there was only one Yeti.
There aren't multiple Krakens in mythology. There is one singular Kraken.
I so badly want Powder. This is not.
That
this
makes
is
me think of the movie.
a hockey team named Powder.
Oh
It's so goddamn funny to me.
It's
That'd be
funny
very
for
Cocaine reasons.
yes. Okay,
Yes.
there it is. Yeah, that's the
I
one.
want them to name their team after cocaine. That would be so fucking funny.
And on brand.
I like Mammoth better than Yeti, personally. I don't love either of them, but I do like
I like
Mammoth better
Yeti
than
the
Yeti.
most out of those 2.
Okay.
On this
Um,
list, ugh.
Outlaws is a great shout out to the original Las Vegas Outlaws of the XFL.
Hockey club is infuriating. I
don't
hate
hate
even
that
on the
so
list.
much.
Yeah, let's not do
This
that.
is not soccer.
I wouldn't hate Blizzard if there wasn't already the Avalanche.
Yeah, that's true.
I just
That's
feel like
weird.
it's
That's
too
a great
close.
point. Yeah,
No,
it is too
yeah.
close.
That's
Same
like
with
if-
Squall, so you can't have Squall
Yeah.
either.
All right.
I don't hate Fury.
Hive is kind of fun.
I don't hate the
Fury's
Utah
okay.
Fury.
I just don't
hate
get
it.
what the
I think it's fine.
what's the tie-in.
Yeah, what's the tie-ins of Utah? I mean, you can't just call them like the Utah Mormons.
Glaciers, I don't
Like they're
like.
going with the Penn Quakers. Penn
Yeah,
Quakers,
exactly.
Utah
It's
Mormons.
the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Mount-
There's no
Mountaineers make
negative
sense.
connotation there. Some of these are better. Like at least like Freeze. Like, someone put some thought into this. At least it's not like, oh, we're changing our name to the Guardians or the Commanders. Like,
Oh, God,
like the most
seriously.
generic possible names. At least these are a little different.
One of my favorite
like Yeti,
one of
I
my
think.
favorite ideas for Washington, and obviously they didn't do it. They picked the Commanders. They never would have done it because of like it would have been a little bit too political. But I would have loved it if they would have called themselves the Swamp Creatures, just because like Washington is the swamp and just like leaned into it.
I
That
thought-
would have been very fun.
Washington football
I
team
thought
was fun.
Washington football team was decent.
I thought it was hilarious, actually.
And like WFT, it looks like WTF. That's the history of their franchise. Like it made sense. All right. Well, that is pretty much.
We got
all.
one more quick
we
little
have one
super
more
chat.
Super chat.
Not a question. It's from Gary B. I played golf with Jake V
Oh
when he
my
was
God.
awesome. Dude, chill and drink beer, shoot the shit for a while.
dream.
He's obviously a great drinking buddy.
Yes.
Everybody knows it.
That's why
Jake
he's
Voracek, come play golf with Charlie in July.
Yeah, come to the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
come to the
July
thing, Jake.
13th.
Yeah.
At Valley Brook Country Club.
There we
All
go.
right, and that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out on this F Around Friday. Follow the podcast, PHLY Flyers. Follow us right here on YouTube. You know the drill. At PHLY_Flyers on Twitter. My name's Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. That's Kelly Hinkle. Stay loose and sexy, Philly.
We all silly like the mayor.